Maybe it's all worth it. Maybe it's not.
Khary Durgans, born September 28, 1991, is an independent rapper and singer from Providence, Rhode Island. Starting his music career while interning for the company theFaders, he quit to pursue his passion for music, sustaining himself as an independent artist. Since then, he's grown a decent yet incredibly loyal following that is still growing day by day. But it wasn't easy. Through talking to Khary and myself, it really opened my eyes to the struggles he faced as an artist.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Blair.
Yeah, man, so I made a documentary about 3 years ago now.
It's really good.
Thank you, man.
The emotions and topics touched on in his music were a reflection of the hardships he faced to get the position that he is now. This documentary will be covering the true story of Khary, a prime example of an independent artist who is not only extremely talented and underrated, but authentic. This is an artist and his desperate attempt to love everything.
Awesome. I've been in the creek like Dawson. I get the physique of a Martian. I be with the freaks and the odd ones. Awesome. You can never see what it cost them. I do my receipts in the garbage. Watch the way you speak when you talking. Say my piece and watch she won't let me go.
Khary was originally born in Michigan and stayed there until he moved to Providence, Rhode Island when he was only about 3 years old. Being the youngest of 5 siblings, he had no immediate family in Rhode Island. It would be the place he would grow up, however. Khary described how there wasn't much of a music scene out there, so it was initially hard to grow as an artist. When Khary was 16, he got inspired by his older brother to start rapping. Initially, it started due to his brother and one of his friends having a rap beef, so to call it, which encouraged Khary to start learning how to rap and recording his own material so he could side with his brother in the beef.
Yeah, so you were describing me how he got in a rap beef and you wanted to be like him and stuff, so you started making your own shit.
He got in a rap beef with one of my best friends at the time. And when I got in, I just picked a side, and I just picked my brother's side, so I made a diss towards my friend. It was all fun and stupid shit, but that really just got me amped up and just got the spark going for me. It's the return of the tongue, back to the natives, back with the vengeance, cause niggas ain't creative anymore since the day of the creators. Hurt put in work, Melly Mel did favors. Africa Bombado was a former day savior, while Chuck D still too old to mix flavors. Before the dawn of blue hip-hop rapers, Def Jam was on the road to being major.
This discovery led to his passion for music. Khary ended up becoming his brother's hype man, with his brother sneaking into venues and shows. He would go by the name KIT, his earliest rap moniker, which stood for Kid in Training. The idea behind his name was, if we stayed kids in our minds, we would never have to grow up. He admitted to me it sounded corny, but this really was just the beginning.
So basically, I'm dope. I fuck bitches, bad bitches. I be if they ain't even a bitch, I ain't gonna fuck with them. On the real shit, if they some nice lady and shit like that, I wanna fuck you. I wanna fuck a bitch, a real bitch. Me and my nigga, you don't fuck no bitches.
Fuck bitches.
We fuck bitches, nigga.
Khary started developing his own sound, making, as he described, whatever, imitating his brother. His passion for music, as well as being his brother's hype man, led to people knowing him locally. He started to open up for lots of shows and for random people, really anything he could get at the time. After high school ended, he started to go to Northeastern University in Boston. He was still rapping at the time, but described how he didn't want to stay in college. One of the main reasons he attended in the first place was because A, his mom taught at the school, and B, he didn't have to pay college tuition. There, he would go to a music program where he would meet some of his best friends, Marquise and Jovan. In college, he used the opportunity to start building his name and continue trying to figure out his sounds musically. After being in college for a bit, Khary ended up taking an opportunity to spend 2 semesters in New York, interning back in 2011. However, he realized he didn't like Boston and eventually dropped out and went back to Rhode Island. This is around the time things started to get a little dark for him. Around the same time, his mom lost her house. He described to me how he spent the summer of 2012 on his friend's floor. This is what one of his first projects titled Love and Anchors was about. You can hear his emotions about this time period through his music. In September of that year, he started interning at theFaders magazine.
Coming up short be the end of my life sentence. My life's finished. For every win, you'll probably lose a few. You gotta prove, but to who is the greatest? Rubik's Cube.
He went back to New York, however, it was a bit of a struggle initially. He and his brother initially almost got an apartment, but fights with the owner broke out and he ended up driving back to Rhode Island. He described to me how he was counterfeiting bus tickets for a week in New York until he found an apartment on Craigslist. He described the small makeshift room he was staying in, saying how he couldn't even stand up, it was that small. At the time, he worked a job at an Urban Outfitters as well as a sneaker store. These first few years in New York were initially hard. At Faders magazine, he was learning about how the music industry worked. Khary had worked in the advertising side of it. They had a street team at the Fader, which he was a part of. The marketing was called Cornerstone, and he would put up posters around places advertising different artists for the Fader. He would also work at the front doors for guest lists, as well as other small jobs during this time. This time period was crucial for him because it would solidify the foundation for one of the first projects of his that would gain his music career attention. At the time, Khary was still trying to make music and work on different things. Eventually, he realized that he was meeting a lot of people and networking, but not making a lot of music. This part of the story is where he started to make a lot of drastic changes in his life. At the time, he felt as if he was stuck in a loop, a soul-crushing one at that, working all these small jobs somewhat within the industry but not following his true passion. Khary ended up quitting interning at the Faders and focused solely on his actual jobs to support himself, as well as his music. During 2015, he started working on his breakthrough project, one that would be the most important that he ever released up until this point. The project that would get him a lot of fans and recognition. Leading into 2016, he started to get a lot of love for his music, releasing an EP called Swim Team. He made a song titled 23/Self-Centered, which felt like a look into his mental state at the time. It seems around this time period he started to take his music career a lot more seriously, releasing tracks such as Smooth Talker, Ambidextrous, and No One Knows, that all came out around the fall of 2015. Smooth Talker and Ambidextrous would have accompanying music videos and start to gain him some traction.
That and Ambidextrous too, because Ambidextrous, I hadn't listened to it in a while, and I went back to it and I was like, dude, he's really spitting on this, for the time,
Yeah.
And now you're leaning towards more so melody, alternative hip hop, singing, and because you can spit, but I feel like when you do spit bars, it has more of a purpose now rather than just showing people, hey, I can rap.
Ass, keep a shoebox for the stash, many more fish in the sea. Gotta keep a line for the bass, y'all waiting line for the clash. Me, I just get it, I ain't in the hall with a pass. I just count money, call it math. Don't fuck with you, call it science. Fuck a bad bitch, call it gym, we can run them laps.
2016 was the peak of the Soundcloud era. Online, Khary was connecting with producers such as Swell and Ledge Kale, who would produce some of the biggest songs on his mixtape, Intern Aquarium. Swell sent Khary a beat, which would become the introduction titled Interlude to his mixtape. Swell also sent him the beat for 2 AM Thirst Ballet, as well as a beat that would become one of Khary's biggest songs. This beat sampled Shiloh Dynasty. Swell sent it over to get Khary's opinion on it, but Khary thought Swell sent it for him to rap over. So he did. Swell ended up liking it and dropped their version of the song, then Khary proceeded to with an accompanying music video. The I'm Sorry freestyle would be what would come out of it. It would blow up on SoundCloud and now currently having about 5 million streams.
I can't find the time, you can't find the time, maybe we should quit joking. I can't stay the same, I can't play a game, I am fresh to the tokens. I will follow you to hell and back, but lately I don't know where you're going. It's a different direction, I am sick of finessing.
This led to a commentary YouTuber by the name of Luna finding out about Khary's music through SoundCloud. Luna was a commentary channel that talked about life stories, and he would frequently use Khary's songs such as Quitting and the I'm Sorry freestyle at the end of his videos. Because of this, Khary was exposed to a lot more people, and started to gain followers rapidly on SoundCloud as well as his other social media. His music started to get streamed more and more. Around that time, his friend co-founded a distribution company called STEM. Ironically, he told me this is in the early days of Spotify. His friend who founded the company told him that he should put his music on Spotify and other streaming platforms. Back then, Spotify was a lot smaller, so there's naturally less competition for listeners, playlisting, and such. When he put his music up on Spotify, it really started to do numbers. Finally, in May of 2016, Khary would drop a mixtape that would change the trajectory of his life, as well as his music career. Intern Aquarium was released, and the project got a lot of positive feedback. Record labels started reaching out, and this is when Khary got a proper look into the music industry. Being a wide-eyed 23/24-year-old as he described, Khary didn't know how often record labels would fly out artists to meet with them, but that's what started happening. Khary described to me how he almost got signed with Red Bull, however they would end up ghosting him. The success of Intern Aquarium really started to open up doors for his career, but he was naive to the industry at this time. He described how he wasn't ready for the project to do as well as it did. This was the first time opportunities like this would be offered to him. It seemed too good to be true. However, learning experiences like these would pave the way for his current position as an artist. The rest of 2016 going into 2017, he started working with Ledge Kale on what would be a project titled Tidal Graves. There would be frequent flights to LA to meet with more people and work on stuff. The I'm Sorry freestyle started blowing up even more in December of 2016 when he dropped the video for it. At this point, he was hitting crossroads as he kept making music. He really wanted to delve deep into the process after the success of Intern Aquarium. Khary described to me how Intern Aquarium in general was made with more spontaneity. While he started taking his music career more seriously around this time, he didn't initially enjoy the process of making music. Now that he was getting more attention towards his career, he felt as if he needed to get into the process more and up his game. More people were listening to him, more people were watching, and more people were paying attention. Tidal Graves released in December of 2017. The sound was a bit of a switch up from Intern Aquarium, as there was a collaboration with Lech Kale, who had produced some of the tracks off of Intern Aquarium. The project didn't initially do well in streaming, and things started to get a little darker that year. That summer, he went through a breakup and shaved half of his dreads. One interesting thing about Khary that he described to me that his fans have also noticed is his hair. Yeah, his hair has changed drastically with just about every era of his music. In 2016, he had dreads. In 2017, he shaved half of his dreads, as he mentioned. Then in 2020, he completely got rid of his dreads, grew his hair back, and then eventually settled at being bald. I mention this because it holds significance to him as an artist, and hair is a way to represent identity. In the latter half of 2017, Khary had started working on and conceptualizing the project Captain, making songs where, for the first time in a while, he felt as if he caught a rhythm. This is when he described starting to slightly fall in love with the process of making music. The spontaneity of his work ethic before was disappearing, and it seemed now that he was evolving as a person, and getting more in touch with his art. Leading into 2018, the song Fujiko off of Tidal Graves got playlisted on Spotify and broke 1 million streams. 2018 was a very important year in Khary's career. This year is filled with milestones, and may have been the year he released the most music. On April 6th, 2018, Khary released the project Captain, which showcased a shift in sound from Intern Aquarium. Captain, by comparison, was much darker and more vulnerable compared to Intern Aquarium. The project talks about themes such as love, addiction, depression, insecurity, and millennial relationships. Khary seemed to really put more of his emotions into this project, describing how it gave it a darker tone due to his relationships, experiences with labels, and life circumstance at the time. One of the tracks, Anyway, being one of the most depressing songs I've ever listened to. This album would be described by Khary as a learning experience, as a lot more money was put into the rolling out of the project. However, he wasn't completely satisfied with the final product. Later on in his music, and to me, Khary described how Captain was a mistake, and he stated what he would do differently with the project if he could go back to it.
You say this quite a lot. I think your fans are aware that you felt like Captain was a mistake, or you felt like you could have done more with that project. Because I remember when that was being rolled out, like a lot of it was being invested into like visuals and stuff like that. If you could go back to Captain, what would you do differently?
I wouldn't have hired PR. Spent like $6,000 on that first. Two, I would have just took more time with it, or been more flexible with what it could be.
Yeah.
I think I settled for songs that I made at the time because I didn't have the work ethic that I have now. I wasn't as good as I am now. So I think a lot of the times I settled. Like Captain, I didn't even want to put that on there. Like I didn't want that to be my sound, like that trap like vibe. So I remember when I made it, I was like, I shouldn't put this on the album, but I just settled because it was for the album. Not to say it's a bad song, but
you played at the end of like almost all your shows, like
yeah.
Fix this out. You come over here, Spider-Man. You don't know where it's at. I want y'all to jump. 1, 2, 3. On that motherfucking Captain. I'll be stepping like a bitch. I want pennies for my thoughts until I'm motherfucking rich. 1, 2, 3. On that motherfucking Captain. I'll be stepping like a bitch. I want pennies for my thoughts until I'm motherfucking rich.
Because of the turn-up moment, but it's like I think I'm now at a point where I'm trying to be more intentional. After this album, I'm just gonna be more intentional with songs I drop.
It didn't end there though. In the latter half of 2018, Khary launched a Kickstarter to fund his first nationwide tour. The Kickstarter was able to successfully raise $8,761 with 155 backers, past its original goal. That fall he started the tour with Sylvian LaQ, describing how tour is one of the best moments of his life, but at the same time depressing due to the struggle of travel and finances. However, he did a lot of shows and met a lot of fans in the process. This gave him his first few chips of confidence. In the latter half of 2018, Khary would release singles such as Dead, People Just Like Being Mad on the Internet, Holy Ghost, and then an EP titled is a prelude of songs that Khary felt wouldn't fit on his upcoming album, but work well together. The project sounds very spacey and mellow, but thrives in its simplicity, covering a multitude of topics over 6 songs. This EP would originally be the first entry in the series of mixtapes, which got its sequel on December 16th, 2022. 2018 was a year full of hardship and new experiences for Khary, but it catapulted his career and discography in general. He was now trying out new genres to further expand his sound on Captain and carving out a plan for the next few years of his career. However, it didn't originally go the way he thought it would. In 2019, he moved out of New York back to Rhode Island, as he wasn't going out and described how he was in the crib playing Fortnite a lot. In 2019, he was there from February to August, sleeping on his mom's couch, taking back and forth trips to LA to work on the This EP, which he uniquely shot visuals for every song for. This is something he didn't do prior, but it would be something he would keep up moving forward. Talking to him, he described doing things the hard way. This would all be while he was simultaneously releasing new music, experimenting with singles such as Peppermint and Fuck Simon. These singles lean more towards melodic rap and alternative hip-hop. This is when he really started to learn the process of making music and got a proper feel for it. It's interesting hearing from an artist you listen to how they originally didn't enjoy the process of making music. It takes time, but passion and hard work is ultimately what keeps you going.
Peppermint, medicine, small rooms and elephant, prodigal, nice, big deal my life, bitterness settles.
The original plan for the rollout of his music would be a series of 3 EPs that would spell out This Is Weird. The first EP, This, was released on June 27, 2019, but would be scrapped following a change of plans. Khary described to me how he felt like the project was lackluster. The day following its release, he was talking to his manager asking, "What are we doing?" He would be in the studio for 2 weeks after that. Although this ended up becoming scrapped, it would be a mistake that would end up leading Khary to make his most successful album up until this point. The weekend before the This EP released, he made a song that would be titled 2. 2 was a love song that was made in 24 hours, and currently sits at 6 million streams, being one of Khary's biggest songs, and a huge win that would end up on his album. At this point, he was still moving back and forth between LA and Rhode Island for studio sessions. He was sleeping in a recording studio that his friend was renting out. That's when he altered his thinking as he felt lost with the trajectory of his music. He wasn't adding on to a larger narrative with his original idea, he felt as if he was just releasing songs. Through sleeping at a recording studio, going back and forth to sleep on his mom's couch, and showering at a Planet Fitness, this constant discomfort would bleed into his next project and help him grow as a person. Releasing a slew of 4 singles over the summer, Platonic, Fuchsia with Code of the Friends, Revenge of the Intern, and of course 2, Khary would slowly but surely roll out his album, This Is Weird.
Mom. What? Khary's being weird again.
Yeah. This is weird. This is weird.
As he moved to LA around the first week of September, he started putting together the album in August. He would also go on a second nationwide tour in the fall of that year. Tracks such as In the Middle of the Forest had been made at the end of 2018 and beginning of 2019. Throughout this time, he was also working on his next album, A Desperate Attempt to Love Everything, in the beginning of 2019, with songs such as Purple Dye and August Warm. As This Is Weird was a spiritual successor and direct sequel to Intern Aquarium. The project incorporated more melody, had multiple references to Intern Aquarium including the track Revenge of the Intern, and brought back the skits which were performed by Jermaine Flower on both albums. This helped tell the album's narrative of Khary, who runs into his old boss after quitting his job to follow his passion, and at this point, being in the position of having a decently successful music career. Releasing 2 singles, Planet Earth and Satellites and Rearview Mirrors, in April and May of 2020. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the rollout of the album was severely affected, with proper music videos for Fuchsia and 2 being cancelled, having no time to shoot videos. As mentioned, the album was funded with the help of a Kickstarter. Khary was doing a lot of sessions at the beginning of 2020, playing video games and working on music to keep occupied during the pandemic. With all this going on, at the time he had a friend who helped out the management. This friend taught him how to plan and be organized and also helped him book sessions. Through this friend, he had a record label meeting at the beginning of 2020. Khary described how they picked the day for the meeting, but his friend tried to weasel himself in. Apparently, his friend said the meeting was cancelled when it wasn't. He was lied to about the meeting being cancelled, and for him, that was the last straw. As an independent artist, he said fuck the industry and continued to roll out his album to show the world what he's capable of. This Is Weird was finally released on June 19th, 2020. It was originally supposed to be released on June 5th, 2020, but due to events going on in America such as the Black Lives Matter riots, it got postponed. This project perfectly encapsulates and represents what was going on in the year of 2020. Tracks such as Planet Earth talk about the environment and social issues going on in the US, such as racial issues, cancel culture, mental health issues, pills and politicians, all covered throughout its 3.5-minute runtime. The hook, Back on Planet Earth, used as a way to cover current events in an interesting hindsight. The project's cover is an eerie illustration based off a dream that Khary had, and its production ranges being sometimes fun, mellow and upbeat, and other times dark and eerie. The opener track, In the Middle of the Forest, is a perfect eerie introduction to the album, with the kid at the beginning of the track being voiced by Luna. Tracks that were previously on the This EP, such as Nomad, now had more context on the project. This Is Weird perfectly captured the summer of 2020 for me and many others. This album would perform extremely well and garner Khary many new fans. He was getting closer to where he wanted to be and established a new sound that he would expand on in future releases. The end of 2020 saw him releasing Goodbye Summer as he continued to work on his next album. 2021 saw a slower year, but one where he would focus on new ways to create music and elevate his career. Leftover songs from the This Is Weird sessions were released as Khary's first deluxe album, This Is Weirder, on August 25th, 2021, roughly a year later after the original album. During this year, Khary stated how he started working with new producers and had more in-person sessions. The pandemic was coming to a close, so in-person sessions were now possible. Before, he was rapping and singing over beats, but now he was in person with producers writing and recording tracks. This helped him develop a formula of how to work on music with more creative control. He took time to get better with melody and shifted his focus more on song structure. This is recognizable if you listen to his newer music, as the structure is more organized and the hooks sound more catchy. During 2021, he made a lot of songs that would end up on his mixtape, 2, dealt with 2 different managers, and went through a breakup. This year is meant to further propel him as an artist and learn new ways of making things. His next album was almost done, but instead of shifting the sound dramatically like he felt like he did when he released Captain, he would release music consistently that would transition better into his next album. 2022 started and Khary felt like he needed to get his album out in some capacity. Trying to find funding, he found it through a distro company, but didn't want to wait to release any singles. One of the most notable songs that he dropped in the beginning of the year was Fembook Drive. Fembook Drive is essentially a song about how humans will drive the end of the world upon themselves, through directly confronting the toxic effects of social media. If I were to describe this song, I would describe it as nihilistic entertainment. Fembook Drive demonstrated growth in his music dramatically as it had more melody, an extremely catchy hook that stuck out, and a simple beat that was used as a backdrop as the layers of the song formed together. I think it is one of Khary's best songs, and I'm surprised it didn't make the album considering it was originally going to be the lead single for a desperate attempt to love everything. It took a few months to negotiate the contract terms after the release of Fembook Drive, but Khary was able to get a small budget for creative marketing. This Is Weird was the first project he originally had a budget for, but it didn't go all according to plan. The second time around, he wanted to make sure he got everything right. But before his album, Khary would slowly roll out a project that would be the sequel to his EP, that would help transition his fans into a new sound. That project would be 2. 2 was a mixtape released on December 16th, 2022. Originally, it was going to be an EP, but it ended up slowly being rolled out with about half of the project being released as singles. The project is 10 tracks long and has many noticeable improvements compared to his previous work. For one, practically every song on the mixtape has a catchier hook compared to the hooks on his earlier work. The production's more pronounced than and the spacey sound from the first EP is expanded on but with a darker tone. The background vocals and general mixing also make each track sound more unique. I would also argue that 2 has a weirder sound than This Is Weird, which established a new sound that's drastically improved on 2. These backing vocals add a lot to the project, with noticeable tracks such as Cavemen, Dark Cloud, Deep Conversations, and Proud of Us showing unique demonstrations of backing vocals that range from ad-libs to singing that aid the main lyrics. This is what particularly stuck out to me while listening to the project. Not to mention this project expands on Khary's singing capability. The topics on this mixtape expand even further, talking about hopes and dreams, ambition, mental health, drugs, isolation, and confidence. Proud of Us is the opener track and the biggest song on the mixtape with lyrics that recite like a prayer. What's important, not the fortune, but not forfeiting the game. This line artistically speaks a lot about the journey Khary has been on for well over 10 years at this point. People get so hung up on the end goal, that being fame or attention, when passion is what should be your true focus. Falling in love with the process. That's one of the reasons I respect Khary as an artist. 2, I believe, was an important sound shift for Khary that would give his music new life. The massive improvement on this tape would help him transition into his next album, which should finally release on May 24th, 2023.
The ones that do the least can do the most.
This is my attempt to fall in love with everything.
A desperate attempt to love everything was started in the first week of February back in 2019. At this time, he made Purple Die and August Storm within a week of each other. Going all the way back, this is a transition period of his life that we briefly covered, where he was living at his mom's crib again, traveling to New York frequently, and hoping to get to LA eventually. The project is made over a 4-year period and is Khary's self-described best work. The project's goal is to showcase just about everything musically, incorporating a lot of experimentation. The title, A Desperate Attempt to Love Everything, was the title that came to mind roughly back in 2019, and for some reason stuck. The message of the title is to fall in love, or at least appreciate all parts of life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The actual project talks about this, along with Khary's personal struggles, particularly through the perspective of a young man throughout his 20s. The project's narrative differentiates from Khary's previous work and showcases maturity through its sound and topics. The project begins with the buzzing of cicadas out in the middle of a field. The intro track, I Saw a UFO, being only a minute long, is brief but captures you, much like what it would be like to actually see a UFO in the sky. The vision that Khary described to me while making this project was very interesting.
I think together as this collage of thought, which is like, I like the cicadas at the beginning and the end. I wanted to feel like a story, a moment in time. Like the vision I had at the beginning was just you're in a field with fucking tons of cornrows, like a car and a car light, just the car light's the only thing on, or like a porch. And then there's this guy fucking playing piano and aliens are dancing around. That was the vision I had in my head for what I want that moment
What
to
did you take to get to that vision? Like some drugs or just thought
nah,
of it?
I just got there. But, and I wanted to feel like everything. It literally, like it's in the title, Desperate Attempt to Love Everything, but it literally musically is a lot of different sounds blended together. And I think it was important having that start and end, because it kind of bookmark, or not bookmark, what's the thing like that, like on a bookshelf, where you put divider, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of divides it from everything. It's like, this is what this is, and everything within here is together, you know? I think separately, I do like the singles, but I just think separately, this is one of those projects that's just, you're meant to hear it together.
One step for weirdos, one step for mankind. Fucked up my barber, he fucked up my hairline. Spent my whole 20s just trying to get airtime. These labels, these fables can suck dick, don't care. I look out for me. Ain't no politician, I'm not practicing a speech. I'm far from the Christian that my mother raised to be. All this liquor got me pissing out responsibilities. I'll try one more time.
Oh my god, that's so
Awesome. Got some fantasies, Kate Marson. Katniss Everdeen, wait, pause it. Look like Mr. Clean on my bar shit. I guess I'm evolving. I get the feeling these niggas ain't willing to do what I do every day.
The first single from the project, Say My Piece, exhibits a sound from This Is Weird that was further expanded upon. The production by Mike Irish blew me away, and is some of the best I've heard from his music. I think it is one of Khary's best tracks to date. Topic-wise, interning in New York was a big part of Khary's story, which took 2 projects to completely get over. But on Say My Piece, he acknowledges that New York's influence on him holds a grasp and won't let him go. The song further expands on Khary accepting his weird side, referencing him being a freak and an outsider to the industry. This is displayed in the music video, symbolized by a character Khary created for the song. I talked about how this ability to create different characters for a song suited his brand well.
I feel like where you are now with, like, I guess style-wise, like some artists such as like Tyler, they have a persona or character they can put on for each album depending about like what the album's about. You've been doing that with songs, and I feel like you're at the point where you don't need to have like a standout look because you can just do whatever and it works for your brand because you know this is weird, right?
I think that the important part in that approach is consistency.
Yeah.
It doesn't work if you're not consistent. You can't do that style if you're not on your shit, because people need. So say they didn't like this song, say they don't like Say My Piece, I drop another one. Then like you said, drop another one. I like Purple Dye, but alright. Now drop Aliens, like, yo, I love this one, right?
Yeah.
That can get them to, once it's on the album together, that can get them to like, maybe start to like the other ones, maybe start to, but even if they don't, I give them one every, like, you get fed, you know?
Yeah.
But if I'm dropping super like 6 songs a year type shit, that person might not hear the type of style of me they like until next year. You know, like that's why I try to stay consistent.
That's interesting.
The most notable and anticipated track off of the project was You Say, having a memorable but comedic hook, and you say, I'm a piece of shit, but I'ma still give you good dick, which I feel like has a slight Kanye influence through its polarizing chorus. Sometimes the best lyrics are polarizing but entertaining. The song is well produced and is a catchy anthem about being a fuckboy. Ironic, considering on Intern Aquarium how Khary stated he despised fuckboys. This is my favorite song from Khary, as well as most of his fans, as this was a snippet that was constantly teased on tour for about 3 years. The backing vocals on this song's chorus are very unique, and I think it stands out in his discography, having the most potential to be a hit. Khary hasn't exactly made a song of this style before, but it's so catchy and well done, and fits not only as a standalone single, but adds context to the overall project. Purple Dye is one of Khary's most gorgeous and heartfelt songs, which utilizes vocals in another unique way which Khary hasn't done before, that syncs well with the instruments throughout the track. The song became a therapeutic love song for Khary during a breakup, becoming sort of a heartbreak anthem. The idea behind Purple Dye is written from the concept of mixing blue and red together, which is used as a metaphor for relationships. Aliens has a very unique song structure that may seem all over the place at first listen, but grows on you the more you listen to it. The seemingly disorganized structure adds to the suspense and narrative of the lyrics. The hook, I wonder if they know I'm even here, is brilliantly tied, wondering if there is extraterrestrial life, all the way back to connecting to Khary's personal problems. The last verse gets very personal, talking about Khary's brother who suffers from schizophrenia. This moment is powerful and showcases Khary's writing ability and a willingness to talk about vulnerable topics in his music. This is something he previously never talked about, but the overall structure and narrative of the track is brilliant, with a simple yet eerie beat that adds to the alien feel of it. Other notable tracks off of the project are Cannot Buy, which has a similar energy to Fembrook Drive, with Khary rapping braggadociously in the first verse. It then takes an introspective turn in the second verse, talking about environmental issues, tying all the way back to how we cannot buy another Earth, we cannot buy another environment, and how we're ultimately destroying ourselves in the grand scheme of things. One of the best songs on the project that wasn't previously a single is Waves. Waves is quite like a pop song and talks about a dream girl that you vaguely remember just after waking up. It captures such a specific feeling of waking up just after having a dream, to the point where it's kind of surreal. Demonstrated on the chorus, I dream on, but they all start fading away. This is one of Khary's self-described favorite songs when I asked him. The last verse was written after a breakup, and his production influences from Captain with the chorus and sad horns in the background. Khary described this project as a perfected version of Captain in a way. This project has more defined moments than other previous projects, which is why I would describe it as Khary's best work. The closer track, Everything, ties up the album, where Khary finally learns how to love and accept everything. His 20s have ended, and he's sharing his pain with you, while metaphorically looking for a fountain of youth. The instrumental fades back into the buzzing of cicadas we heard at the beginning of the project, making the album a loop. Also, shout out to Khary for letting me listen to this album roughly 2 months before it was released. I appreciate it.
I've been on a mountain, running out of days here, I don't know who's counting, looking for the fountain, a youth cause I felt so much.
For someone that has endured much hardship and struggle just to pursue what they want in life, I think all respect is deserved. His story, quite like his music, is something worth listening to. Khary is a talented artist who could have given up at many points where some people would have, but he kept going. From being broke on his friend's floor, to investing into a pen, from being another rat stuck in the rat race, interning and working multiple jobs, to quitting and being able to support himself with his music, through trying and failing, but learning every step of the way, to carving his own path as an independent artist, documenting all the pain and emotion he felt along the way through his music. His discography really showcases a steady musical evolution and maturity of character. Some people may take good music for granted, as it's so mass-produced nowadays, with not a lot of it being truly genuine. Sometimes it takes pain to make great art, and Khary is a prime example of being able to carve something great out of that pain.
This is weird because it worked for me this year, but at the beginning of this year I said I was going to blow up on YouTube.
Yes, sir.
So far I've doubled my growth. My channel's been doing good. You're going to blow up this year, 2023 is your year, and 2024 you're going to get a Grammy. We'll see what happens, but hey man, I believe in manifestation.
You're 1 year ahead of my timeline. I think 2025 is very good.
2025, Khary Durgans gets his first Grammy.
Okay, appreciate you.
Appreciate it, man.
This was the story behind